Okay, let's dive right into this. Welcome to today's explainer, where we're going to unpack a seriously profound text. It's about a concept that honestly sounds a bit like science fiction at first, but it has absolutely incredible real-world implications. We're talking about reprogramming your reality. If you've ever felt totally stuck, whether by physical limitations, generational cycles, or just, a negative rut you can't seem to shake, the source material we're exploring today argues that the ultimate master key is renewing the mind. We're going to look at exactly how the text claims our thoughts literally dictate the reality we live in. To kick things off, I want to pose a direct question to you. It's one that really challenges our basic everyday assumptions. Where does pain actually live? Think about it. We normally assume that if our leg hurts, the pain lives right there in our leg. Or, if we're facing financial poverty, we naturally think the problem starts and stops in our bank account or our physical circumstances. But is that actually true? This source material forces us to completely reevaluate exactly where we locate our problems.
Because here is the foundational insight the source provides. Physical pain and even broader, more complex issues like poverty are processed and sustained in the mind way before they ever show up physically. The text points out a crazy fact. When a leg is injured, it's actually the brain interpreting that pain. If you were to numb the specific part of the brain responsible for pain, well, the pain vanishes completely, even if you haven't treated the injured leg at all. According to the author, reality happens in the head first. That means if we harbor poverty or sickness in our thoughts, we're actively sustaining it in our lives.
Section 1. A life-changing mindset shift, the power of environment and counsel.
To really grasp the importance of renewing the mind, the source offers a striking real-life case study, and the before and after of this person's history is just wild. It's the story of a pastor whose life was essentially hitting a brick wall. Before he renewed his mind, his reality was incredibly grim. His leg was literally rotting due to blocked veins. He was in agonizing pain and completely incapacitated. Because he was confined to a very limited local environment, the only medical counsel he received was terrifying. Amputate within 3 days or die. That was his reality. But instead of just accepting that limited counsel, he made a radical choice to shift his environment and renew his perspective. He was airlifted out, seeking highly specialized counsel from doctors who viewed his impossible situation differently. By physically and mentally relocating, they found a way to actually open those blocked veins. Month by month, the color returned. And the impact on his life after renewing his mind? Today, he walks on a fully restored leg, completely changing the entire trajectory of his life and his ministry. The text uses this powerful history to argue that a dire condition might literally just be the result of limited thinking and a limited environment. The author argues there is always someone out there who has the knowledge to cure a specific condition, but you absolutely have to renew your mind enough to go seek them out. Section 2. The battle for your brain, the coma of deletion. And this brilliantly illustrates our next point, transitioning from physical healing to what the source considers the ultimate battleground, your brain. The text introduces this really intense but fascinating analogy regarding mind control to show exactly how our brains are formatted. It references the controversial historical MKUltra project to demonstrate how a human mind can literally be erased and reprogrammed. In these extreme experiments, a person could be put into a chemical coma for up to 90 days. During that coma, their existing brain patterns and memories were essentially deleted. Then came the reprogramming phase, where they'd play running audio tapes constantly, just looping new words and ideas while the person was unconscious. When they finally woke up, the patient would emerge with a completely new reality. Sometimes they didn't even recognize their own family. It sounds totally like a sci-fi movie, right? But the author uses this extreme example to prove a terrifying and absolutely critical point about how malleable the human mind really is. Now, obviously we aren't being put into chemical comas, but the source draws a stark parallel to our everyday lives. The reality is, the world is running experiments on your mind every single day. We're constantly being programmed. Think about it. Breaking news, the endless doom scrolling on social media, toxic gossip, negative environments. We consume all this information like it's our daily breakfast, and it gets digested right into our subconscious. The author argues that if we're constantly feeding on the steady diet of crisis and negativity, our minds are actively being formatted to produce a reality of fear and limitation. So, break the fourth wall for a second and really ask yourself, who is programming your mind today? Seriously, whose words are you allowing to format your brain? The argument here is simple but tough. If you don't consciously choose what you consume, your environment is going to choose for you, and it will absolutely dictate the boundaries of your life.
Section 3. Epigenetics and your environment. Breaking inherited curses. let's move to how this builds into the physical realities we inherit. Like, how does what we think and where we live affect our actual DNA? The source bridges this gap by bringing in epigenetics. Basically, that's the scientific study of how our behaviors and our environment can cause changes that actually affect how our inherited genes work. The text uses this science to illustrate a huge point. Just because you have a gene for a certain condition doesn't mean it's your unavoidable destiny. No way.
The incredibly liberating concept presented here is that inheriting a disease, or even generational cycles of poverty, actually requires a matching environment to survive and manifest. Sure, you might inherit the genetics, but the text argues that if you also inherit toxic attitudes, poor financial habits, or destructive appetites, well then you're providing the absolute perfect environment for that condition to thrive. But if you change the environment and stop consuming those negative inputs, you literally starve the inherited trait. The author strongly suggests that relocating your mindset is actually a form of deliverance from generational issues.
Section 4. Steps to renew your mind, the biblical prescription.
So the crucial point is, how do we actually do this? What should we feed our minds to take active control? The source lays out this ancient prescription found in the biblical book of Philippians, presenting it as a strict, non-negotiable diet for mental recovery. The teaching suggests you literally have to intentionally force your mind to meditate on things that are true, honest, just, pure, lovely, and of good report. If a conversation you're having or a news article you're reading isn't a good report, the author advises you to protect your mind and just refuse to consume it. When you feel like your life is under attack, this focused, hyperpositive meditation is the literal hospital where the text claims your mind recovers.
All right, let's break this down into an actionable process for how to renew your mind based on our explainer today. Step 1. Identify the traits and appetites you've inherited that simply are not serving you. Do a real, honest inventory of your habits. Step 2. Change the environment that is feeding those traits. This might mean changing what you read, who you listen to, or how you spend your time. And Step 3. Seek out better information and counsel. Remember the pastor who saved his leg by finding a doctor with a completely different perspective? The source reminds us again and again, there is always someone out there who has the knowledge to cure your specific condition.
Section 5. Manifesting your new reality. Conceiving the future.
As we move into our final phase, let's look at how applying these exact steps translates into tangible life changes. The source highlights what it considers a universal truth. Every single created thing starts as a thought. The author notes that you can't build a house out in the physical world without first constructing the blueprint entirely in your mind, right? Well, they argue the exact same thing goes for your life, your health, and your success. Your mind literally must process and conceive the outcome you want before it can ever materialize physically. According to the text, if you think defeat, you produce defeat. But if you conceive health and victory in your mind first, you bring it forth into reality.
Ultimately, this whole concept boils down to one incredibly powerful quote highlighted in the source material. Be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. True transformation doesn't come from just working harder physically or, wishing for your circumstances to magically change. It comes from doing the deep, hard work of deleting old, limiting programs and replacing them with a renewed, empowered mindset.
So I want to leave you with this final provocative question prompted by today's text. What reality are you manifesting today? The source suggests that your life right now is merely a reflection of your dominant thoughts and the environment you've allowed to shape you. But the amazing news? The power to completely change it, according to this philosophy, lives right inside your own head. Thanks for joining me on this explainer to unpack these ideas, and I'll see you next time.